Red Lanterns number 23, written by Charles Soule, art by Alessandro Vitti and Jim Calafiore. So, last issue we had the Red Lantern Corps, now being led by Guy, taking a pirate spaceship as a new base or something, and Dexstar used its red ring to bring Atrocitus back to life. So this issue picks up with Atrocitus and Dexstar, and he's just like, Dexstar, what in the hell did you just do, man? I've never seen that before. And it turns out that Dexstar used his ring to make a construct heart. And Atrocitus points out, wait a minute, you can't make constructs. And it turns out that Dexstar tasted a tiny bit amount of Rancor's blood, and so that gives him the ability to do it. And so Atrocitus is like, oh, good kitty. And then he sees Dexstar's ring on its tail, and he goes to grab for it because clearly he wants to be a Red Lantern, but he stops himself. He's like, nope, I'm gonna get another ring. I'm not gonna kill you, Dexstar. So let's go ahead and find myself a ring. So then we go back to Yzmalt, where they have landed their pirate ship, and basically Guy and Kyle are saying, like, what do we name it? We got to give it a cool name, like a badass name, like the Bloody Horror or the Scarlet Sword. And Guy's like, okay, you work on that. I'm going to deal with other things. And Skallux is basically saying, like, why do we even have a ship if we're just going to stay on the planet? What's the big deal? And there's like, no, it's just kind of like a place for us to sleep, like a living quarters. That's the best way to think of it. And Skallux is like, you guys are so weak, you need living quarters. So we go back to Zilius Zox, who is working on the ship, because obviously they blasted numerous holes in it, and somehow Zilius knows how to fix starships. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna keep on working on this. You cool with that, Guy? And Guy's like, I'm not your boss. You do whatever you want, man. Let's go for it. And he's like, yeah, all right, cool. Oh, by the way, you killed a dude. Like, I didn't think Green Lanterns like you killed. And he's like, yeah. Guess I'm not a Green Lantern, ha ha ha. So we go to Atrocitus, who's going through deep space with Dexstar, and they've traced out some Red Lantern energy to a planet called Stygia, which is the planet that Skallux actually came from. And he's like, oh, hey, sweet. And there's like a defense satellite or something that tries to attack them, and Dexstar just straight up annihilates it. And he's like, all right, cool, let's head down to the planet and see what we can get. So we cut back to Guy, who his Green Lantern ring is like almost on the verge of dying. It has 0.003% left. So he goes up into planet's orbit, and he calls up Hal, and he's like, hey, Hal, get me out of here. And it's like, why? What's up? What did you learn? And he's like, the Red Lanterns are weak as hell. They can't do anything against us. Like, they're not something to worry about. And Hal's like, okay, well, I still want you to stay there and learn about what Atrocitus is doing. And he's like, you don't understand. I killed Atrocitus. He is dead. I ripped the ring from his finger. And then I killed another guy. I'm not liking what I'm doing here, Hal. Get me out of here. And Hal was like, I'm sorry, who did you kill? And it's like, he was a bad guy. He was a horrible person. Like, he kind of deserved it. But at the same point, you said I could leave whenever. Get me out of here. And Hal's like, all right, fair enough. If you killed Atrocitus, so be it. I'll call up the Blue Lantern Corps. They'll come get you. So he comes back down to the planet. He's got like 0.001% left. And then we go back to Atrocitus, who is in the central city of Stygia. And the guy who actually caused Skallux enough pain and rage and stuff to get him to become a Red Lantern is talking. He's saying like, oh, we've got ourselves this power source. We need to investigate it more. Like, tear it apart, but don't kill it. Don't destroy it. And Atrocitus reasons like, oh, okay, I sent out 10 rings. They must have intercepted one. I'm gonna go get that ring. So he busts in through the ceiling, just immediately starts going after them, and he sees that they don't have a ring. They actually have the red entity of the Butcher, like the ring entity. So without his ring, Atrocitus is still beating the ever-loving crap out of everybody. Dexstar does so as well. And Atrocitus comes up to the Butcher, and he's like, hey, Butcher, you know who I am. I know who you are. I need to take care of this now, okay? I'm going to help you. And he takes his hand and, like, plunges it into the Butcher's skull, and Butcher starts freaking out. And he's like, I get it. You want to leave, but, like, this is the only way. We have to do this for blood stuff. So Dexstar gets knocked down in a like surge of power, whatnot. When he looks up, Atrocitus has regained his Red Lantern abilities and also two horns, and he has like goat hooves now. He's the devil. He is quite literally the devil. And he's like, all right, cool. I've got the butcher inside of me. I'm the living entity of it. Let's go back to Yzmalt and take care of our problems there. But before he leaves, the guy who like made Scalex's life miserable, he's like, wait a minute, you can't take that. That belonged to me. And he's like, oh, hey, I know you. You made my Red Lantern's life miserable. And then just destroys the entirety of the building they're in, turning it into a giant just blood puddle. So, yeah, they head off to Yzmalt. And then some time passes. Guy uses the last of his ring energy, calls back up Hal, and he's like, where the hell's my escape route? Where are the Blue Lanterns? And he's like, over in Green Lantern New Guardians, the Blue Lanterns were straight up destroyed last week. They are just gone. It's a thing. It's called Relic. You're going to be tying into it next issue. Just, it's happening. And then the ring goes dead. And Guy's like, son of a bitch, he never was going to take me out of here. He was going to keep me here forever, wasn't he? But we see that standing behind Guy and having seen the whole conversation is Bleez, who's like, well, what are we going to do about this? So, I like it. I think it's solid. In regards to the Blue Lanterns being knocked out, that was in the last issue of Green Lantern New Guardians, and I really enjoyed that, and I'm glad to see that it has this overarching effect onto the other comics. Like, clearly he needs a Blue Lantern to leave. Blue Lanterns are no more, therefore it impacts him. It gives the sense of, like, there's this universe going on, and obviously these Green Lantern books have always been very tied in closely together, but Red Lanterns has always been the one that's been on the outskirts. Like, it's able to do things that don't really matter to the main books. So I'm glad that we're really getting this tied together now, and we're able to look at this in a sense of, okay, this thing happened in one book, how does it impact the others? So I enjoyed it. I think it was solid. I really like the Atrocitus being the entity's host now. That's great. I think it's a good power-up for him, especially with how handily he was just knocked on his ass by Guy. So, down with that. Overall, I'm going to say this one is it's a 7.5. I enjoy it. I really think that it's a solid issue, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Charles Soule has in store for the rest of his run.